Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to the rich and powerful after death? Those who, in life, had everything at their fingertips: fortune, influence, applause, and reverence. What do they find when they cross the border from the material world to the spiritual world? This is a question many avoid, but one that sparks deep curiosity in those seeking to understand the mysteries of the afterlife. After all, do wealth and prestige guarantee some kind of privilege in the spiritual realm, or is reality quite different from what we imagine? What you're about to discover may surprise you. Among the many accounts circulating about the afterlife, one name always emerges with authority and respect: Emmanuel. A spirit of unquestionable wisdom, known primarily for his partnership with Chico Xavier. Emmanuel left messages that still inspire, provoke, and spark intense reflection. He spoke not only of doctrine, but of life, choices, and consequences. His words transcend time and reach us with the power of one who truly understands spiritual reality. For he was present in accounts, psychographies, and warnings that marked the Spiritist movement in Brazil and around the world. When we delve into the messages attributed to Emmanuel, we realize one point that draws much attention: the testimonies of spirits who, in life, occupied prominent positions. Men and women who amassed fortunes, held positions of power, and dominated multitudes with their influence. But upon arriving in the spirit world, they found themselves faced with an undeniable truth: none of that could accompany them. The money, the possessions, the titles, the applause, everything was left behind. And what remained were the marks of their choices, successes and failures that now needed to be faced head-on. This is where the power of these revelations comes in. Emmanuel shows us that, behind the masks of earthly success, there are painful confessions and reflections that could completely change the way we see life. Spirits who were once idolized on earth now recount their experiences of regret, loneliness, and even surprise at the reality they encountered. Stay with me until the end, because these stories carry lessons that can transform the way you view your present. And perhaps you're wondering, why listen to these messages? The answer is simple and powerful. Because they're not just curious tales from another plane, but living warnings, invitations to reflection that span the centuries and remain relevant today. Emmanuel always emphasized that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in what we share. Not in the power we wield over others, but in the ability to serve, to love, to forgive. By listening to the confessions of these spirits, we are confronted with our own journey. Have you ever experienced this? That moment when you wonder if you're living the right way, if you're investing your energy in what truly matters? Because that's precisely the feeling these messages evoke. It's as if Emmanuel holds up a mirror to us, inviting each of us to look within and reflect on the choices we're making. It's not about condemnation or fear, but about awakening. He shows us that the destiny that awaits us is shaped daily by our actions, and that even the most powerful must answer to their own conscience. When earthly life comes to an end, what these wealthy and influential people discovered after their deaths may sound like a warning, but also an invitation to rethink values, attitudes, and priorities. And as we delve deeper into these revelations, you'll realize they speak not only to them, but to all of us. Because deep down, every human being, regardless of their position in the world, carries within them the same need to evolve spiritually. And it is precisely at this point that our journey today begins. Because if the testimonies of these spirits shook even those who already studied the afterlife in depth, imagine the impact they can have on your life, here and now. Let's dive together into this universe of confessions, learning from past mistakes and understanding how these messages connect with our present. Have you ever imagined what happens when someone who spent their life surrounded by wealth, luxury, and power discovers in the instant after death that none of that accompanies them to the other side? Imagine the shock of consciousness of a spirit who, in life, dictated orders, controlled fortunes, and was admired by multitudes, but who, upon encountering spiritual reality, realized they are completely alone, stripped of everything that defined them on earth. What you're about to hear may surprise you, because these are accounts not of ordinary people, but of wealthy and influential people who, according to Emmanuel, shared confessions marked by the weight of truth. Emmanuel, this spirit of light and wisdom who guided Chico Xavier in so many psychographies, always described life after death with clarity and depth. He revealed the experiences of souls who, despite all their material prestige, arrived in the spiritual realm with feelings of emptiness, regret, and anguish. Many of these spirits, who in life believed themselves invincible, confessed with tears and pain that they were mistaken in thinking that power and wealth would guarantee happiness or salvation. Stay with me until the end, because these testimonies have the power of a mirror that can change the way. See your own life? Some of these accounts describe the weight of wounded pride. Spirits of men who had been venerated discovered that, in the spiritual world, there are no palaces or crowns, no sycophants ready to applaud their words. The silence of the afterlife enveloped them, and the absence of human recognition transformed into profound loneliness. Emmanuel showed that, at this moment, many confessed not knowing how to deal with the simplicity of spiritual life, as if they were helpless in the face of a stark reality. Have you ever experienced this? That moment when everything that seemed essential suddenly loses its meaning? Because that's exactly what they experienced. Only on a much more intense level, there were also those who confessed regret for not having used their opportunities nobly. People who had the influence to transform the lives of many, but preferred to accumulate wealth, feed their vanity, and ignore the needs of others. In the accounts of these souls, according to Emmanuel, the awakening was painful, because they realized that their time on earth is short, and that they had wasted the opportunity to build something truly of eternal value. Money, which once seemed like an unshakable fortress, now served no purpose whatsoever to alleviate the moral pain they carried. These confessions weren't fabricated stories meant to instill fear, but real testimonies that came as a warning. Emmanuel described these experiences so that we, still incarnate, could reflect before it was too late. What's most striking is how these words, even coming from spirits who have passed, sound so relevant today. Just look around and realize how many people still believe that success is measured only in numbers, titles, or power. But what happens when life forces us to leave everything behind? What remains is the essence, the choices, the moral legacy we built, and herein lies the great power of these messages. They touch us because they reveal that no one is above the laws of consciousness and spiritual evolution. Not kings, not businessmen, not politicians, not artists. Before the spiritual world, we are all equal, and what differentiates us is what we manage to develop within ourselves. Pride, selfishness, and vanity become heavy burdens when left untreated. And Emmanuel made a point of demonstrating this by narrating the pain and shocks of these souls who had so much but discovered they had nothing true when they passed. Through the portals of death, what you'll hear from now on is even more revealing, because these confessions don't stop at the pain of regret. They also offer lessons and paths that can help us rethink our actions today, while we still have time and opportunity to change the course of our lives. And that's precisely what we'll delve into from now on. Have you ever wondered what the true value of what you're building in your life is? I'm not just talking about work, money, or social status, but about what will truly remain when everything material ceases to exist. This is a question that bothers us, that stirs our conscience, and that we often prefer to postpone until the future. But when we hear the messages of spirits who intensely experienced wealth, power, and influence, and who after death confessed the emptiness they felt upon realizing that none of it could be taken away, it's impossible not to reflect. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because these aren't distant or abstract stories, but practical lessons for our present revealed through the wisdom of Emmanuel, the spirit who accompanied Chico Xavier and brought to the world teachings that remain alive to this day, according to Emmanuel. The confessions of these rich and powerful people serve not only as accounts from the afterlife, but as precious warnings for each of us. He always emphasized that true wealth is not measured by our accumulated possessions, but by our ability to develop virtues. Humility, service to others, and detachment were values constantly evoked in his messages, because they are what truly shape a soul's destiny. Have you ever experienced this? That moment when you realize that a material achievement, no matter how great it may seem, was unable to fill the inner void? This is precisely the feeling many spirits described upon awakening to spiritual reality. And Emmanuel spared no words in showing us how current and necessary this is. According to Emmanuel, the confessions of these rich and powerful people serve not only as accounts from the afterlife, but as precious warnings for each of us. He always emphasized that true wealth is not measured by our accumulated possessions, but by our ability to develop virtues. Humility, service to others, and detachment were values constantly evoked in his messages, because they are what truly shape a soul's destiny. Have you ever experienced this? That moment when you realize that a material achievement, no matter how great it may seem, was unable to fill the inner void. This is precisely the feeling many spirits described upon awakening to spiritual reality. And Emmanuel spared no words in showing us how current and necessary this is. If we look at practical life, how often do we allow ourselves to be consumed by the endless race for success? We work tirelessly, accumulate responsibilities, and worry about impressing others. But we forget to nurture the essence that truly lives within us, the ability to love, to forgive, and to serve. Imagine someone who spends years of their life trying to gain recognition and applause, but ultimately discovers that none of it is valuable when their conscience demands answers. It's as if all that effort vanishes into thin air. Emmanuel, in his messages, insists that we must use each day's opportunities to cultivate spiritual values that no one can take from us. Think of simple situations: a kind gesture that can change someone's day, an act of generosity that eases the pain of others, a kind word that soothes the hearts of those who suffer. These are small actions in the eyes of the world, but grand in the spiritual realm. While many spirits have confessed regret for not having done this in life, we still have time to put it into practice. Stay with me until the end, because this point is crucial to understanding how to apply these messages today. Emmanuel invites us to realize that the true meaning of existence lies in how we relate to others, how we deal with our own limitations, and how we choose to grow in the face of difficulties. Service to others, so often seen as mere occasional charity, is actually a key to evolution. He shows that the more we dedicate ourselves to the collective good, the more we strengthen our own soul. And detachment, far from being an invitation to give up everything, is an exercise in freedom, the ability to live without being a slave to possessions. Without being a prisoner of pride or vanity, these lessons are even more urgent in today's world, where we are constantly bombarded with the idea that success is about having, showing off, and dominating. Emmanuel warns us that true victory is about being, feeling, and learning to love unconditionally. And when we understand this, we begin to look at our choices differently. We ask ourselves, am I accumulating things or cultivating values? Am I simply seeking recognition, or am I building something that will endure beyond my physical existence? What you'll discover from here on is that these messages aren't stuck in the past, nor do they serve only as records of regretful spirits. They are living invitations addressed to each of us so that we can transform our lives now before it's too late. And that's precisely where we'll delve next. Have you ever stopped to think about what you will truly take with you when your earthly life comes to an end? This is an uncomfortable but inevitable question. Throughout history, men and women have amassed fortunes, built empires, and gained power and prestige. But according to the spiritual messages revealed by Emmanuel, the spirit who accompanied Chico Xavier on his mission, they all had to face the same truth. None of this crosses the threshold of death. What remains are not titles, possessions, or fame, but what each person has built within themselves. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because it's not a speech of fear, but an urgent call to reflection. Emmanuel always made it clear that the messages he conveyed were not intended to frighten or condemn, but to awaken. To awaken to the fact that life doesn't end with our last breath, that every action, every choice, and every omission leaves marks that stay with us beyond our material existence. He spoke of the rich and powerful who after death confess deep regret, loneliness, and pain upon realizing they had wasted opportunities for spiritual growth. But these revelations aren't just meant to shock us. They invite us to look within and ask, what am I doing with my time? Am I building something that will have eternal value, or just accumulating things that will be left behind? Stay with me until the end, because this warning isn't just for great leaders or historical figures. It's for all of us, without exception. Emmanuel reminds us that sooner or later, we will be held accountable for what we did with the talents we were given, relationships we built, the opportunities we had to help and love. Have you ever been there? That moment when a loss, a disappointment, or an unexpected change made you reflect on what truly matters. These experiences are small reminders that life is constantly calling us to wake up before it's too late. The impact of Emmanuel's messages lies precisely in showing that there are no privileges when it comes to spiritual law. It doesn't matter how big our bank account is, our last name, our position, or our influence. What truly makes a difference is the quality of our heart, the sincerity of our intentions, and the way we choose to treat those around us. Humility, compassion, and service to others are not distant or unattainable virtues, but choices that are possible every day. And the sooner we understand this, the more meaningful life becomes. The invitation Emmanuel brings in his words is for each of us to awaken now, while there is still time, because the moment of transformation is not tomorrow, nor the day after, nor whenever something happens. It is today, with every gesture, every thought, every attitude. We are defining what will truly accompany us when we leave our physical bodies. And perhaps this is the most powerful lesson these spiritual testimonies offer us. That no one leaves life the same way they entered, because we all carry with us the weight or lightness of our own choices. And you? What are you building to take with you when you leave this world? This is the question that echoes like a call, a reminder that there is still time to change course, adjust paths, and invest in what truly matters. Not as a threat, but as a precious opportunity for growth. Because ultimately, awakening is inevitable, but it can be experienced with pain or with awareness. And it is precisely from this reflection that we now continue, diving even deeper into the revelations that Emmanuel left and that remain as current as the day they were transmitted, ... And perhaps, upon hearing all this, you've already felt that uneasiness in your heart, that desire to reflect on what you're building in your own life. That's where I want to open a space for conversation with you. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. It could be a memory, a personal experience, or even a question that arose during this reflection. When you share your vision, it's not just a loose comment. It's a way to create a flow of ideas, feelings, and learning that strengthens this community. And if you're here at this point, it's because in some way this topic has already spoken to your soul. So take advantage and like this video, because each like helps spread this message to more people who may need to hear these exact words today. Your interaction is what brings this work to life. It's what allows it to reach those who don't yet realize they need this awakening. And of course, if you want to continue following content like this, reflections that combine spirituality, messages from beyond, and practical lessons for everyday life, subscribe to the channel. This way, you won't miss anything to come, and you'll show that you're part of this journey of learning and transformation. Your participation is what makes this channel grow and reach more people, so that this network of consciousness and light becomes ever stronger, because deep down, we're all seeking the same thing: to better understand life, learn from past mistakes, and build a more authentic future. And that's exactly the direction we're heading in from now on. ... Have you ever stopped to think about what really happens to the rich and powerful after death? This question, at first glance, seems like an unanswerable mystery. But as we delve into the spiritual messages revealed by Emmanuel, a spirit of enormous authority in the Spiritist movement, we discover hidden truths that completely change the way we view life and what comes after it. Emmanuel, known for his profound and transformative partnership with Chico Xavier, brought to light revelations that go beyond a simple interest in spiritual phenomena. His words are invitations to intimate and courageous reflection, because they show us that neither money nor fame, nor power were able to prevent the harsh consequences these spirits faced when they crossed the threshold of death. Imagine a man who, in life, had crowds at his feet, owned luxurious palaces, influenced political and economic decisions, and believed the world revolved around his will. Now, visualize this same man after death, without his titles, without his possessions, without anyone to flatter him. Emmanuel describes that, at this moment, many of these spirits experienced a profound shock of conscience, a feeling of inner nakedness before spiritual reality. They realized, perhaps for the first time, that they were alone with themselves, before their own conscience, without the artifices of earth to mask their choices. The impact was devastating, because all that had seemed like solid achievements revealed themselves to be nothing more than dust that could not be carried away. These revelations are not just curious tales. They are warnings that invite us to rethink our own decisions. When we look behind the scenes of spiritual life, through Emmanuel's descriptions, we see that every act, every word, every intention has weight and consequences. The rich and powerful confessed, according to him, that they never imagined feeling such loneliness. Wounded pride, shattered vanity, the regret of wasted opportunities emerged as painful memories that could no longer be erased. What you will discover now may surprise you, because it shows that true justice lies not in human laws, but in the natural law of conscience. This is a point that profoundly affects our mentality. Understanding that life is much more than accumulating wealth. Emmanuel reported that many of these spirits, upon reaching the other side, despaired upon realizing that they had spent all their earthly time achieving titles and accumulating possessions, but had forgotten to cultivate what truly matters, the capacity to love, serve, and evolve spiritually. It's as if they had invested all their energy in an empty vault, believing they would find wealth when in reality, there was only silence. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this contrast between what is valued on earth and what truly matters in spirit shows us how much we need to reflect on our own priorities. Think about how many times you've allowed yourself to be consumed by goals, competition, and comparisons. Perhaps you've worked yourself to exhaustion, believing that when you achieved a certain status, you'd find peace. But have you? Have you ever experienced this? That feeling that even after achieving what you so desperately wanted, something is still missing. Because this emptiness, described by the spirits Emmanuel presented, is precisely the reflection of a life that forgot to invest in what endures. Emmanuel didn't bring these messages to spread fear, but to awaken. He clearly showed that human power is ephemeral and that true strength lies in what we build within ourselves. When we observe the confessions of the rich and powerful who, after death, found themselves in pain and regret, we understand that life offers us the chance to choose different paths. This is where the word transformation takes on special meaning, transforming mindsets, transforming priorities, transforming the way we view our relationships and decisions. And it's interesting to note how this hidden truth recurs across different cultures and spiritual traditions. The idea that nothing material accompanies us is present in ancient philosophies, but gains even greater impact when recounted by spirits who lived at the height of wealth and prestige. This is proof that we're not just talking about theories, but real experiences, revelations born from the shock of consciousness after death. It's as if Emmanuel is telling us, look at your life now, because there's still time to adjust the course of your journey. And this awakening is not distant. It is within reach, with every choice we make today. Emmanuel showed that even the simplest gesture of kindness is worth more than the most expensive jewel. That a word of comfort can illuminate more than an entire castle. That serving others is an act that echoes into eternity, while the accumulation of power fades away in time. These comparisons make us see that the meaning of life lies not on the stage of appearances, but in the silent backstage of consciousness. And you, upon hearing these revelations, may feel a call to rethink the paths you've been following. Because ultimately, true victory isn't conquering the world outside, but overcoming your own limitations within. Emmanuel invites us to this reflection with both firmness and tenderness, reminding us that each moment is an opportunity to begin anew, to write a new story. and to prepare a treasure that will truly be valuable when our earthly journey ends. Now, to make this reflection even more vivid, I want to propose something simple. Comment on a sentence that represents what you're feeling right now. It could be, "This makes sense to me," or "I'm on this journey too." Because when you write, it's not just a video recording. It's a way of affirming to yourself that you're willing to look within and take these revelations seriously. And from here, we continue to delve even deeper into this universe of messages and confessions, where each word of Emmanuel opens doors to understanding life with a clarity that few have dared to. Revealed. It's striking to see how the spiritual confessions, revealed by Emmanuel, function as open windows to a truth we often prefer to ignore. He describes how men and women who held positions of extreme prominence, surrounded by luxury, applause, and flattery, upon passing away, found themselves faced with a completely different scenario than they had imagined. One of the most striking accounts was that of a businessman who, in life, built empires and believed he would be remembered forever for his achievements. However, upon crossing the portal of death, he realized that all his accumulated wealth was of no use to him. His confession was permeated with regret and profound pain for having neglected family ties and human relationships in exchange for a power that dissolved like smoke before eternity. Another example. Emmanuel brings up tales of an influential politician, someone who, while incarnate, moved crowds and believed his word was law. Upon finding himself on the other side, he was overcome by a feeling of overwhelming loneliness. His fiery speeches, once repeated from grandiose platforms, now echoed only within his own mind, like empty memories. He confessed to feeling imprisoned by his own decisions, recalling every act of pride. Every time he failed to listen to his conscience to maintain appearances of greatness. This confession exposed the devastating impact of vanity when it is not balanced by humility, and Emmanuel didn't sugarcoat these descriptions. He clearly demonstrated the rawness of spiritual awakening, as if tearing away the masks these men and women wore in life. There was also the story of a socialite, someone who lived surrounded by luxury, parties, and appearances, but who, upon passing away, was forced to face the hidden truth of her existence. Her confession was marked by a feeling of absolute emptiness. She described that, despite her expensive dresses, unforgettable trips, and a life that seemed perfect to others on the spiritual plane, none of that remained. What remained was a heart hungry for true love, for real connections. Something she herself had denied herself for the sake of the image she needed to maintain. These revelations are powerful because they force us to consider, what are we really building on our journey? Are we not falling into the same error of placing all our energy in things that, deep down, will have no weight when the physical body dissolves? Emmanuel described how many of these spirits found themselves before a kind of inner tribunal, where there were no external judges, but only their own conscience exposing, without filters, the consequences of the choices made. Regret emerged like an open wound, and loneliness was a direct result of a life in which appearances mattered more than feelings. The impact of these accounts lies not only in the shock of imagining the downfall of people who seemed unattainable, but in the invitation to reflect on our own mindset. How often do we seek approval, status, and recognition, believing that these are the measure of our happiness? How often do we forego small joys, acts of kindness, and genuine connections in exchange for something that impresses others but doesn't truly nourish us? These blatant confessions from beyond the grave are like mirrors that show us the risk of living externally and forgetting to look within. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the power of these revelations lies not only in the pain narrated by the spirits, but in the possibility of transformation they carry. Emmanuel described that, despite their initial suffering, these rich and powerful were not condemned forever. On the contrary, many of them began journeys of learning, full of challenges, but also opportunities for regeneration. This is a powerful message of hope, because it shows us that even the most serious mistakes can be the starting point for a new consciousness. It's curious to note that, in several of these accounts, there was a sense of relief mixed with pain. Relief at finally seeing the truth without the filters of illusion. and pain at realizing how much time was wasted on misplaced priorities. This contrast is something that affects anyone who allows themselves to reflect honestly, because all of us, to some extent, have felt the weight of investing energy in things that didn't bring the expected return. The difference is that, for these spirits, there was no going back to redo what was lost, but by sharing their confessions through Emmanuel, they offer us a kind of behind-the-scenes map of life. It's as if they're saying, we've been down this road before, and we know where it leads. You still have time to choose differently. This generosity, even after death, carries a huge impact. It reminds us that, despite our flaws, we can still redirect our journey and align our decisions with what truly matters. And perhaps that's precisely what unites us with these stories. The realization that, deep down, we're all trying to find meaning. Money, fame, and power may offer us experiences, but they'll never be able to fill the emptiness in our souls. What truly sustains us are connections, learning, and the courage to be authentic. These confessions call us to dive deep into what we've been avoiding, our choices, our attachments, and the way we're leading our lives. With that in mind, I'd like to invite you to write down a word in the comments that represents what you're feeling right now. It could be reflection, truth, or even transformation. Because when you write, you materialize this experience within yourself and help create a space for exchange where we can. All grow together from these revelations. And it is precisely at this point that new layers of these confessions begin to reveal themselves, opening paths for us to understand not only the pains of the beyond, but also the opportunities hidden within them. Ready to guide us on our own journey. The messages revealed by Emmanuel about the confessions of the afterlife were not brought merely to satisfy human curiosity or stir up sensationalism around the mystery of death. They carry much greater weight because they are like mirrors that point directly to the present, to the way we conduct our lives, our choices, and our mindset. When he narrated the pain of rich and powerful men and women who found themselves completely helpless after death, his intention was clear: to show that true wealth lies not in material achievements, but in the ability to transform one's own journey through love, humility, and service to others. This is the profound impact of these revelations. It's not just about looking at what has already happened, but about seeing what can still be changed within ourselves. Emmanuel insisted that spiritual evolution is not a distant topic, restricted to books or temples, but something that needs to be experienced behind the scenes of everyday life. In the simple details of each day, think about how many times you've had the opportunity to be patient in the face of a difficult situation, but chose to react impatiently. How many times have you had the opportunity to extend a hand to someone, even in small gestures, but chose to turn away because you believed it wouldn't make a difference? These seemingly trivial choices are precisely the ones that add up and form the baggage we take with us when we leave. What you'll discover now may surprise you, often. It's in these small acts that the greatness of a life lies hidden. And Emmanuel spoke about this clearly. He reminded us that detachment is one of the most powerful keys to transformation. It doesn't mean giving up everything and living in scarcity, but understanding that nothing material is permanent. The car, the house, the bank account, the titles, the followers, all of these are fleeting. The only thing that stays with us is how we cultivate feelings, values, and connections. Humility, for example, is a virtue he constantly extolled because it places us in a state of openness to life. Those who are humble learn faster, accept change better, and view challenges as opportunities, not punishments. These reflections weren't an invitation to abandon life, but to live it more fully and consciously. Emmanuel said that true service to others begins at home, in our closest relationships. Where we often fail due to excessive pride or a lack of listening, how many homes become battlefields because no one is willing to take the first step toward forgiveness? How many families carry old hurts from thoughtless decisions? The message is clear. If we can't love and respect those around us, how can we hope to become beings of light who spread love throughout the world? Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject. because it is precisely here that the hidden truth of these revelations takes on a special brilliance. Emmanuel didn't tell stories simply to show us the suffering of others, but to reveal the behind-the-scenes details of our own lives. He wanted to make us realize that the impact of our decisions accumulates day after day, creating the script of our existence. What we often call chance, destiny, or bad luck is nothing more than the reflection of the choices we silently cultivate. It's curious to think that, while so many spirits confessed belated regrets, we still have the chance to rewrite our own pages in real time. We can choose to listen more, judge less, offer a smile instead of criticism, open space for dialogue instead of imposing our truth. These simple gestures are like seeds of light that, little by little, transform not only our trajectory, but also the environment around us. And perhaps this is one of the greatest secrets revealed by Emmanuel. True spiritual evolution doesn't happen on grand stages or in extraordinary moments, but in the seemingly small details that make up our daily lives. If we stop and observe, we realize how the modern world increasingly pushes us toward accumulation and the illusion that happiness is linked to external achievements. We live comparing, competing, trying to prove our worth to others, as if it were possible to fill the inner void with applause or likes. But Emmanuel dismantles this logic with disconcerting simplicity. All of this is just the scene. All of this is just the surface. What truly matters is what you build within yourself and share with others in the form of love, understanding, and generosity. These messages don't ask us for perfection, but for awareness. It's about realizing that every choice, every attitude, every word can be an instrument of transformation. Think of the difference between reacting aggressively and responding calmly in an argument. This small moment can change the course of a relationship, alleviate pain, and create space for forgiveness. This is the essence of the spiritual journey, using life's experiences as opportunities for growth. Instead of trapping ourselves in cycles of pride, resentment, and attachment. And when we apply this to everyday examples, it becomes even clearer. A simple gesture of listening attentively to someone who needs to vent can be the relief they've been searching for months. A sincere apology can break down walls built over years. An act of generosity, however small, can become a beacon of light on the path of someone lost in the darkness. Emmanuel teaches us that none of this is in vain, because these experiences are what make up true wealth, the kind that cannot be stolen, destroyed, or forgotten. And perhaps this is precisely where his message resonates so deeply in the invitation to redefine what we call success. He shows us that a mindset of accumulation and power gets us nowhere when the journey ends, but that a mindset of service, detachment, and love opens doors to dimensions we can't yet imagine. This is the warning that resonates in every story, every confession, every word, and to make this reflection even more vivid, I want to propose something simple. Comment. That makes sense to me, because when you write this sentence, you're not just responding to a video, but affirming to yourself that you want to apply this more conscious perspective to your daily life. These messages continue to resonate, and as we delve deeper into them, new layers reveal themselves, showing how the present is the key that can redefine our entire spiritual journey. There's a point in Emmanuel's messages that, when viewed calmly, seems to pierce the soul like an arrow. He didn't care about sugarcoating things or creating stories to impress. His words were charged with a hidden truth that often causes a certain discomfort precisely because it forces us to see beyond appearances. When he spoke of the rich and powerful who arrived in the spiritual realm, devoid of everything they believed to be essential, he didn't intend to frighten or punish, but to awaken. And this awakening is, in itself, an invitation to rethink how we have been conducting our journey. Perhaps you've noticed how easy it is to get lost amidst the demands of society and the goals that seem to constantly renew themselves without ever giving us a sense of fulfillment. We chase recognition, accumulate achievements, and make plans that often revolve solely around material things, forgetting that the impact of our decisions far outweighs any bank balance or prominent position. Emmanuel shows us that when the curtain of material life closes, the spectacle of appearances is no longer there only. What we have built within ourselves remains. And this revelation, however harsh it may seem, carries an extraordinary beauty because it reminds us of something simple. There is still time to change. The warning is there. It's clear and straightforward. It tells us that sooner or later we will all be held accountable for our actions. And this isn't a matter of acting before external judges or tribunals, but of an intimate reckoning, where our own conscience becomes the unforgiving mirror of the choices we've made. No amount of wealth can buy inner peace, nor power can hide the shadows of who we truly were. This inevitable confrontation isn't punishment. It's an opportunity. It's the chance to realize that every thought, every gesture, and every word left marks that cannot be erased. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this is where the true impact of these messages lies. Emmanuel invites us to see life as a fertile field of possibilities for transformation. If each of us is capable of sowing love, compassion, and humility today, it means there's still time to change the script we're writing. What seemed like routine can become a path of light when approached with awareness. It's as if, instead of living on autopilot, we have the chance to truly take on the role of authors of our own story. This invitation to awaken to the reality of spiritual life is both liberating and challenging. Liberating because it shows that nothing is lost, that change is always within our reach, no matter what stage we're in. And challenging because it demands courage to rethink the mindset we've carried up until now. Attachments, vanities, resentments, all of these may seem like a natural part of the journey. But when the time comes, it's precisely these weights that hold us back the most. Emmanuel doesn't speak of distant theories. He speaks of the concrete impact these choices have on the soul's destiny. Think about the decisions you've made simply to please others. The times when pride spoke louder than the desire to forgive, or the moments when material accumulation seemed more important than the simple act of being present with those you love. It's in these seemingly small moments that the quality of our spiritual baggage is defined. And Emmanuel's warning resonates precisely here. The time to transform the journey is now. Not tomorrow, not in some undefined future, but in this instant, when we still have the opportunity to reevaluate paths and adjust routes. This invitation is also a call for clarity. It invites us to view life as a continuous learning process, which each setback can become a lesson, and each difficulty can be seen as an opportunity to strengthen the soul. This vision changes everything, because it removes the burden of fear and replaces it with responsibility. It's not about living in terror of what will come after death, but about understanding that life is a laboratory where experiences are input for evolution. And Emmanuel, with his serenity and firmness, seemed to say, don't waste time. What you build now is what you'll take with you. This simple phrase has the power to make us stop and reflect. After all, what are we really building? Are we cultivating memories of love, gestures of solidarity, and moments of forgiveness, or just accumulating titles, objects, and fleeting concerns? This is the question that never stops, because it touches the very essence of our mindset. The most interesting thing is that when we delve into this reflection, we realize that it's not just about spirituality. It's also about quality of life, clarity of choices, and the peace we feel when we lay our heads on the pillow. Living in accordance with higher values isn't a burden, it's liberating. And this is perhaps the hidden truth Emmanuel wanted to reveal. Spirituality isn't separate from practical life. It's the foundation that gives meaning to every step we take. And that's where I want to hear from you too. Write in the comments, I'm on this journey too. This simple phrase shows that you're committing to yourself, recognizing that transformation begins within each of us. Because, in the end, all Emmanuel wanted was this: to awaken in us the awareness that life is much more than what meets the eye. And the more we allow ourselves to delve into these revelations, the more we understand that true wealth lies in what we cultivate beyond matter. ... And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for following every reflection and detail of these profound messages. This connection we've created is exactly what makes this channel special. It's a space to awaken, reflect, and perhaps even transform one's own journey. So, if this content resonated with you, please take the opportunity to leave a simple comment, like "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me." It will be incredible to see everyone's participation here, because each recorded word strengthens this community of reflection and learning. And of course, if you're touched by this kind of content and want to continue exploring these hidden truths and practical life lessons, subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to not miss anything and continue receiving these reflections that, little by little, can profoundly impact your daily life. Also, be sure to leave a like, because each like shows that we're building this space for sincere conversation together, and that what we share here is truly resonating. And before we continue, there's a video here that complements this topic, offering even more revelations and reflections on messages from beyond. Click and stay with me there, because the journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning. And each step brings us closer to a better understanding of life, our consciousness, and everything that truly matters.